In freezing weather, bad things can happen to good mosquito systems, so don't let winter sneak up on you. In this video, we're going to walk through the steps to prepare a MistAway Gen 1.3 drum system for the winter. But first, here's why you should do it at the end of every mosquito season. In normal operation, while some dilute chemical drains back into the drum at the end of a mist cycle, there is always some trapped in the Gen 1.3 components. In the pump, agitation valve, flow meter, pressure gauge, zone kit, and nozzle circuit filter, if you have them. When water freezes, and the dilute misting chemical is mostly water, it expands to occupy about 9% more volume as ice than it does as a liquid. When it freezes, this expansion exerts tremendous pressure on the Gen 1.3 components, enough to seriously damage or break them. Winterizing a Gen 1.3 should only take about 20 minutes. So it's definitely an investment that will pay off when you can be confident of starting the unit up next spring without problems. Generally, the process involves first flushing dilute chemical out of all the unit's components and nozzle circuit with fresh water, and then evacuating the water. In step 1, flush the misting unit and nozzle circuit with clean water using a 5-gallon bucket. If there is a nozzle circuit filter on the unit, bypass it by connecting the nozzle circuit tubing directly into the unit. Then detach the filter from the edge of the drum and set it aside. We'll address the filter later in the video. Loosen the locking ring and move the lid and assembly so you can access the intake filter. Remove, clean, and replace the pump intake filter. Fill the 5-gallon bucket with fresh water and position it next to the Gen 1.3. Now, lift the drum lid and assembly from the drum and carefully rest it on the edge of the drum so that the pump intake line and agitation J-tube are submerged. If the system has a 3-way agitation valve, make sure there is a 15 to 20 second agitation cycle programmed inside the setup menu so that you can flush that part of the valve when you run a manual mist. Now program and run a 180 second manual mist, flushing the pump, agitation valve, leak detection flow meter, and nozzle circuit. If you've got a zone kit, run another manual mist through zone 2 to flush it. In step 2, we'll run a dry manual mist cycle. Disconnect the nozzle circuit from the Gen 1.3. Remove the pump intake line and agitation J-tube from the bucket, then activate a dry manual mist for a minute. This will not hurt the pump. While the unit is running, lift the left side about 6 inches to clear any remaining water from the agitation valve. When finished, position the drum lid and assembly back on top of the drum. If the system has a zone kit, this is a good time to clear fluid from it with an air compressor. Disconnect all the tubing from the zone kit. You'll need this adapter to connect the air compressor line to 1/4-inch tubing. Insert a short length of tubing connected to the compressor adapter into the fitting on the valve marked in. When you connect the adapter to the compressor line, the air will clear the part of the valve that feeds zone 1. Leave the tubing and adapter in the in port. To clear the part of the valve that feeds zone 2, we need to open the valve, but we don't want to introduce any fluid into it. To do that, disconnect the motor cable from the back of the controller. Now start an inspection for zone 2. You'll hear the valve, but not the motor. Then connect the adapter to the compressor and clear zone 2. Press stop to end the inspection cycle, and don't forget to reconnect the motor cable to the controller. In step 3, open up the unit and clear any remaining water from the pressure and leak detection flow meter. To access these components, you'll need to remove the plastic shell that covers the assembly. Remove the screws securing the controller, and use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the screws securing the plastic shell to the chassis. Feed the controller through the well in the shell as you remove the shell and rest it next to the unit like this. Now disconnect the tubing that feeds the pressure gauge and allow water to drain. Reconnect the tubing and ensure it's secure. If you've got a leak detection flow meter, disconnect the tubing on both the left and right sides, then invert it so that any captive water runs out. Then reconnect the flow meter, making sure the direction of flow arrow is pointed to the right. and replace the plastic shell and controller. In step 4, we'll clear water from the nozzle circuit filter. Disconnect the pressure relief valve and invert it to clear water. Unscrew the filter head from the housing and dispose of the dilute chemical inside. You can either replace the filter element now or do it on spring startup. Put the filter head back on the housing, and then reattach the filter to the edge of the drum and reconnect the tubing to the unit and nozzle circuit. Step 5 is to unplug the unit, wrap the power cord around the assembly, and cover it with a waterproof cover. And step 6 is to purge any remaining water from the nozzle circuit with compressed air. Remove the tip from the last nozzle on each run. Insert the nozzle circuit tubing into the compressor adapter, then connect it to the compressor line and thoroughly blow out the nozzle circuit. That's it. At 20 minutes or so, we think winterizing your system is a pretty inexpensive insurance policy against an abominable spring startup, and we strongly encourage it, even if you only get an occasional freeze. You can find a checklist of the steps in the tech self-help section of MistAwayPro.com. Just search on Winterization. Thanks for watching.